Matthew is a 20-year-old American exchange student who has come to Paris to study French during the 60s. But it's at the cinema where he gets his real education. In fact, he is a member of the film connoisseurs community, which are known as film buffs. But then came one evening in the spring of 1968, when the world finally burst through the screen. Outside the Cinematheque, they were announcing that Henri Langlois was fired. Langlois was a very important part of the cinema because he showed all kinds of movies, good, bad, old, new, in every genre. This was where filmmakers came to learn more about their craft. Matthew, naturally, attends the protest. That's where he meets a French woman named Isabelle and her twin, Theo. Theo recognizes Matthew and says that he has seen him around. But their conversation ends because the police arrive to deal in the most aggressive way possible against the people protesting. They all manage to escape, but Matthew is not sure if his heart is pounding because of what just happened or because he's already in love with his new friends. They talked about politics, movies, and other random topics. Matthew doesn't want this night to end, but he returns to his hotel room feeling so excited that he writes his mom a letter where he tells her that he just met his first French friends. The next morning, Theo wakes up Matthew with a call to ask if he would like to have dinner tomorrow with them at home. Matthew agrees, and when the day comes, Theo and Isabelle push him inside the elevator for him to go alone while they climb the stairs. Matthew is impressed with their home. Isabelle introduces him to her mom, but she didn't know he was invited for dinner. Then Isabelle takes Matthew to meet her father, George. They sit down at the table to have dinner and George is talking about something, but Matthew's mind is on the lighter. George finds this rude and wants to know what is so amusing about the lighter. Matthew apologizes and explains that the more he looks at the lighter he sees that it fits perfectly on many spaces of the apartment. This makes him realize that there's some sort of cosmic harmony of shapes and sizes, and wonders why that is. George says to their kids that they have a more interesting friend than they know. Theo and Isabelle's parents go to sleep and invite Matthew to stay for the night. Before going to bed, Isabelle kisses her brother in the mouth, and then she kisses Matthew. Theo takes Matthew to the guest room, but he wakes up in the middle of the night wanting to go to the bathroom. However, instead of returning right away to the room, he peeks through the half-open door that reveals Isabelle and Theo sleeping together. In the morning, Isabelle wakes Matthew, and recreates a scene from a movie which he recognizes instantly. Then the three of them share the bathroom and Isabelle points out how beautiful Matthew's lips are. Matthew is in a hurry to leave, but Theo tells him that he's welcome to stay and that their parents have left for a month, so if he likes he could move his things there. Matthew moves his stuff to the twins' home and soon enough a heated argument between Theo and Matthew begins because Matthew thinks Keaton is funnier than Chaplin and Theo doesn't share the idea. Then Isabelle tells Matthew to name a film where someone tap dancing drives someone else crazy. Matthew replies, "Top Hat." This makes the twins look impressed. Isabelle tells Matthew that there's something she and her brother have been meaning to do for a long time, but they have been waiting for the right person to do it with, and that is to try to beat the record of Bandé apart. There's a scene where the three race through the Louvre and they try to beat the world record of 9 minutes and 45 seconds. So they want to beat that record. Matthew doesn't seem really into the idea because as he says he's American and if he gets caught, he can get deported. But he agrees to do it, and they beat the record by 17 seconds. Matthew has just been accepted as one of them. After that, they go home. Theo gives Matthew some fresh clothes to change into, but when Theo leaves the room, Matthew looks around the room and finds the picture of Isabelle, which he takes. Then Isabelle comes acting in the scene of a movie and asks Theo to guess it. Theo is unable to guess it, so Isabelle decides that he must touch himself while seeing the picture of a woman. When Theo is finished, he simply says that he'll meet them downstairs to go grab some drinks. And then a crucial moment in Matthew's life arrived. Theo acted a scene and as usual he made them guess the movie. But Matthew doesn't even have time to guess the film, so he has to pay the forfeit. Theo says that he wants to see Matthew and Isabelle making love in front of him. They go to the guest room, Isabelle gets undressed, but Matthew runs saying that he needs to go to the bathroom. Theo goes after him and manages to catch him. Matthew confesses that he saw them in bed the other day. Isabelle pulls down his trousers and finds the picture he was hiding. Matthew gets down on the floor and makes love to Isabelle. In the meantime, Theo cooks some eggs while taking a look occasionally. When they finish, Matthew sees the blood that confirms that Isabel was a virgin. After that, they kept doing it around the apartment. Matthew says that he thought Isabel had many lovers because when he first saw her, he thought she looked so cool. Then he asks if Theo has even been inside her. Isabel replies that he is always inside, and she would kill herself if their parents found out. Later, Isabel cooks fondue and ratatouille, but it burns so Theo refuses to eat it, but Matthew agrees to eat some. But it is inedible and there's nothing else around the house, nor they have money, so Isabel calls her dad. However, the phone is dead, so Theo looks through the trash and finds some food. But the only thing they find appealing is a banana, which Matthew perfectly peels in 3 equal parts. The time passed, and now they hardly ever left the apartment. They didn't care if it was day or night. Matthew and Theo are sharing a bath while they get into an argument about the war in Vietnam. Theo asks if shouldn't Matthew be in the war, but Matthew says that he's lucky because he's going to university abroad, and if he wasn't, he would have to go because in America if you avoid the war then you go to jail. Theo's perspective is radically against being part of any war, despite what the government says, and he would prefer to go to jail. Then things chill, and Isabel gets inside the bathtub. Matthew tells Isabel that he loves her, but he's not happy with the way she says they love him, so she then says that someone said there's no such thing as love, there are only proofs of love, and asks if Matthew is ready to give them proof of his love. Matthew agrees and Isabel proceeds to grab a razor while Theo holds the shaving cream. But Matthew throws that away from him and calls them crazy because he thinks that without his pubic hair he'd look prepubescent. Matthew says that because he loves both of them, he needs to tell them that they're never going to grow up, not as long as they keep clinging to each other the way they do. Then Matthew asks Isabel if she has even been on a date. Isabel gets uncomfortable because she hasn't, so Matthew invites her on a date and asks her not to look at Theo for permission. But after their date, they notice that things are changing outside. When the two return home, Isabel finds some gloves that don't belong to her, meaning Theo must be with someone. Isabel takes Matthew to her room, allowing him to see a side of her he hadn't seen before. When Isabel hears a woman giggling inside Theo's room, she lets the fury take over her. Isabel knocks on the walls and screams Theo's name to let her in, and then she kicks Matthew out. The following day, Theo looks through his family collection of wine to find a good one to share with Matthew. Then Theo asks Matthew if he's a big movie buff. Matthew confirms this, and so Theo asks his opinion on Mao as a great director with millions that march together into the future with the little red book in their hands, books, no guns, culture, not violence. Matthew tries to see his point of view, but he says that it's easy to say, books, not guns, but it's not true because it's just one book. Matthew explains that the Red Guards that Theo admires carry the same book, sing the same songs and parrot the same slogans. So if that were to be a movie, everyone would be an extra. And that really scares Matthew, who also says that if Theo actually believed what he said, he would be out there, but he's not, he's inside drinking expensive wine and talking about film. In the morning, the twins' parents arrive at their home and can't believe their eyes when they find Isabel, Theo and Matthew naked sleeping in a tent. But they don't say anything. Georges writes a check and they leave. Isabel wakes up and finds the check. She can't stand the fact of her parents knowing what happened, so she grabs the gas hose in an attempt to end their lives, but someone throws something at the window, and they all come out to see what's going on. The communists are protesting. Matthew tries to make Theo understand that these acts of violence are wrong. He even kisses them both to make the twins remember their love, but Theo won't listen, and Isabel also turns her back at Matthew to follow her brother. Matthew knows that this is his time to leave. Isabel hides behind a car while Theo throws a Molotov cocktail, but right after the explosion, all the police department runs towards the Protestants to end the disturbance.